Hello and welcome to the Artist Society podcast. This is Tasn Lohani as usual, and today we have an interesting episode in a slightly different format that was recorded at Fulcrum Gallery in Bombay during my solo exhibition. It's taking longer to download than it was to puke up. In this episode, I am in conversation with curator Nupur Doshi, and we meander about platform politics, what it means for us to be on social media, and how friendships have evolved and changed over the last decade, how millennials look at friendship, how Gen Z looks at friendship, and what has come of human relation making under the reign of big tech's social platforms. Hope you enjoy.
Thank you, Tasneem, for trusting me to also have this conversation with you. And I feel like I've known you for 3 years and your practice for 3 years. And thank you, Aisha and Fulcrum, for also kind of supporting art that's, experimental, a bit on the fringes and not really, and having its own kind of voice in this space. I think that's really important. And while I was preparing a little bit for this talk, I actually found a quote from the World Wide Web inventor, Tim Berners-Lee, who explains that he originally imagined the web as an open platform that would allow everyone, everywhere, to share information, to access opportunities, and to collaborate across geographic and cultural boundaries. So it's really interesting, and this is how the worldwideweb.com started, with this kind of intention, and this is where we're at right now. And what I find really interesting is that Tasneem belongs to a generation that, like me, has never known life without the internet, right? And like many of us here, it's embedded within the fabric of our everyday life. But much of the contemporary art that at least I've encountered around internet theory or like post-internet aesthetics has emerged from artists who have experienced a life before the internet, because of course, they're millennials or they're Gen X. And now we have this incoming wave of new artists who are, freshly from art school, maybe fresh graduates from art school, to around like say 32 or 33 years of age that are just coming up. And there's also this big gap within internet art. If you think about, like the boom of internet art, I would say maybe from my knowledge would be around 2010s, where there was the rise of accelerationism and decentralization. Well, you had crypto coming up, you had NFTs coming up, and this was, of course, due to the advent of the one and only, like the most radical embodiment of like horseshoe theory and left and right-wing politics. And sort of the precursor to this right-wing turn in the arts that we're seeing now is like Nick Land. Like many of us might be aware of his philosophy, or even if not directly, we are so consumed that there's no way that we've not engaged with his work. And a lot of this Nick Land accelerationist internet art was, of course, inspired by cybernetics and looking at technology through this lens of algorithms and organizational systems, questioning the hegemonic structure of technology itself. And obviously, that has now then continued to this generative AI debate that we have, where many artists are now critiquing Gen AI and cloud and ChatGPT and all of that. But between these two, like between this accelerationism of algorithms and organizations and Gen AI, there is a big gap, right, which is like social media, like Facebook and Instagram. And, the impact of Facebook, I mean, the first ever social media, which we still engage with. And I feel like there is a gap in terms of this in the art world. Like, obviously, I've seen Facebook in an aesthetic sense. like think of screenshots of conversations that are put in galleries, like Facebook conversations, or there are like Facebook logos that are being regurgitated ubiquitously, like in both an ironic and a sincere sentimentality. But I haven't really seen much art that is directly engaging with social media, like not generative AI, but like social media. And especially from the perspective that Tasneem brings in, like obviously you are critiquing it and you're making visible these absurdities and glitches that, but there is also an element of softness and of nostalgia and sentimentality that comes through in the work. Like you're mourning the death of a friendship that began on the IRL, but ended on Facebook, like someone you know in person in school, and then this friendship has ended on Facebook Messenger. And there is this kind of dreamy quality that feels like you're yearning for something that might have been, or perhaps like something that only existed in this mediated form. And this is particularly refreshing, I think, in a landscape where the dominant approach to digital culture is often like very sharply critical or very distant or dissociative. And I'm very interested in this approach that you have taken of going inward and looking at your own archive and looking at your own Facebook messages, rather than a dissociative othering lens. And like, could you elaborate more on this? Like, what specific memories stayed with you that have inspired this work? And like, when did you first realize that social media was actually shaping you, your friendships, your relationships in real life? And it wasn't just a distant platform that you could like log in and log out of at any time. And, obviously when you were making this work, you were going through these archives from like such a long time back. So what emotions were coming up for you? Like, was it comfort? A comforting nostalgia? Was it a more anxiety-driven nostalgia? Or was it like sadness?
You've asked many questions, so I will try and answer one by one.
I can also repeat them.
No. I will answer them so if I can remember.
Yeah.
So one of the first times that I kind of looked at social media or like thought about social media in a way that felt like didn't help me positively was, I had a 14-year-old friend, like she was my friend since I was in grade 2, and we went to college together and we had a fight, and that friendship eventually ended through like, a goodbye message on Facebook. Even though, we were seeing each other every day in college, she was sitting on the next bench next to me, and it almost felt like the Facebook gave a easier cushion to kind of say something difficult via a platform, which I didn't see for like nearly a week or something, because I wasn't even really using Facebook by that time. And so it was very confusing, like, because I see this person every day, and I've gotten this very emotional message on Facebook saying, like, I don't like, this friendship has to now end. So that was like when I was in 4th year of college, and then that really inspired me to think a lot about how social media was affecting all of us. And then my final graduation project that I did in my undergrad was also around social media. What was your next question?
It was, what kind of feelings were coming up for you when you were making this work?
Right. So at that point, so like when I made my graduation project, that was 2017. And, I think ever since like then, I kind of felt like, social media is this negative, horrible thing that is not really helping us create long-lasting or resilient friendships. And I spent a number of years just kind of like resenting and hating these platforms. And eventually I realized that I couldn't really articulate for myself what I really hated, because like I joined Facebook when I was 13, and I really went there with an optimistic mind. I didn't think technology was dystopic. I mean, how can a 13-year-old think that? So I just thought like it was a fun place where I really enjoyed being, and over time I really ended up hating it. So I then, like I did a lot of reading, and I kind of, as one finds out through Instagram Reels, even ironically, that all of these platforms are created in a way that really manipulate you and your behavior rather than to really help you, connect with people. They're optimized for engagement.
Yeah.
And so whatever comes in the way of that, they deal with it through algorithms. And it doesn't matter if we connect or make friendships or not, as long as we engage, because that's what brings in money, because that's what the advertisers want that are actually funding the platform, because we are using it for free.
Yeah.
So it's like I then wanted to look at my last kind of 15 years or however long it's been since I was 13 and I was on Facebook to now, to kind of what have been changes in my social behavior online, and track what are all those software updates and features and buttons and things that came in that really started impacting the way I was thinking about friendships in real life as well. How was internet software features translating into physical life? So I sent in a request to Facebook to send me an archive of everything that I had ever posted, shared, commented on, all my messages, because I used to talk to strangers from all over the world when I joined. And so it sent me all of that, and I was just, like hoping to find some of my very early messages that I remember I used to speak to, like this woman in America and one woman in Europe, and this really sweet boy in Pakistan who called himself my brother. And I really found some kind of emotional support over there, that it was a very risky thing to do also, to go on the internet. And I didn't have my real name, I didn't have my photo, I didn't have any of those things over there. And so it was, and then slowly the internet got taken over by people who started selling things and advertisers, and like it became a marketplace. And it was no longer a place where you just went and found interesting people from all over the world. Because I always saw the internet as a place where a lot of introverts went to find community, people who found it difficult to navigate physical spaces, to use the internet as a mediation, as an alternate. And really what ended up happening was it was taken over by extroverts completely. And I think introverts were very sidelined in that space. So with this archive, I was trying to see what was I saying, sharing, doing on the internet, because I've spent 3 hours a day just sitting in front of the computer waiting for people to come online, because that was another thing. You could just wait for people to come online. And it's kind of absurd, right? Like just like you all decide, or you all kind of have a mental picture of like around 7 to 10 people will be free, they'll have their dinner, and then we'll all be online, we'll all like chat with each other. And when I went through this archive, of course there were a lot of things, that we shared, like we used to share a lot of YouTube links to say, this is, look at this song. This song is what I identify with. This is how I show you what my personality is because I like this song. And then, so like just content like that, resharing. But the chunky, the interesting bits I found was in all the personal messages. Because while we were sharing and talking and doing all these things, the messages were where all the anxiety of what it really means to be on a digital platform was being shared. We didn't question why on earth is there a like button and what does it mean. We just said, like means all these people like me. And so how do I get more likes? And how do I be like the popular girl? Because I'm not the popular girl in school. So can I be that on the internet?
Yeah, there is this kind of alter ego. And if we go with this thread, right, of like likes and engagement, because I feel like internet culture is also conditioned by processes that take place out of sight, in this like attention economy metric of likes and views. It's like obscuring our alienation from the inner workings of the platform and like these URL versus IRL entanglements, like these are ontologies that are embedded, in what we call, like in corporate jargon, user experience design. Like, for example, this reminded me of was this very famous Citizen X project by James Bridle. It was an artistic project in the form of an extension for web browsers, which makes visible these physical infrastructures that underlie the internet. Mapping the location of websites. So you have it as an extension. It shows you what all is happening, like how the code is changing as you're clicking. And all this kind of, it's very Marxist in this sense because it's bringing forward this invisibilized labor that's continuous and never ending. But instead of like human labor, like what Marx wrote, it's machinic labor, like this labor of code that's going on under this surface. And, but this idea is also present in both your works. Of course, with the sonic work, you have these glitchy pauses, that is depicting like delay and latency and awkwardness, of the platform. But most importantly, I think it's been defined in the dinosaur game, where you've actually changed the source code of the game, which you can play on this laptop, to speculate and imagine a new version of the game. Would you like to tell us like more about this and this like idea behind like doing the speculative imaginary of this game? Because it's quite like ingenious.
So there's, I really wanted to include this game in some form as part of the show and the install we have here, because this Chrome Dino game is a game that would show up on the Chrome browser when the internet stopped working. And most of us are familiar with this, It's a subtle way to nudge you and tell you, the internet's not working, but that's all right. Just play this game in the meantime. And it'll be back soon. And the game was, easy enough to learn how to play and hard enough to like get a good score. So it was just like, just keep playing for the good score. So I've spent hours doing that even when the internet has come back. So it's just got me like hooked to this thing, even when, I'm not chatting with other people.
Yeah, you're switching off your internet so you can play this game. Yeah.
So, and then I came across this book that I have here by Douglas Rushkoff. It's called Program or Be Programmed. And he talks about this idea that, there is a lag every time, there is a new technology that comes into usage. There is a lag between the people who create it and the people who are using it. Because by the time, like for the longest time, there only be a few people who know how it works. And then the rest of them will be consumers. And by the time the rest of it becomes that mainstream that the rest of them learn how to make it and understand the workings of it, the creators would have already made something else. So they're always like one step ahead. And so there's a power dynamic at play. And like before, in the simpler times, it was like, by the time you learned how to read, the wealthy learned how to write. And so you are always playing catch up to that. And so if you are not learning fast enough how to harness this technology, then you are already in this age. It's a lot more complicated because the algorithms are programming you to think and behave in certain ways. And once you're already programmed to behave in a certain way, it's hard to, like, you're in the matrix now.
You're institutionalized, yeah.
And then it becomes that much harder. So, like, this manipulation of human behavior is then right now very, very easy to do, because the amount of resource that's gone into studying human psychology and then normalizing the manipulation of it is so high that it's like for you to contend with it. So he proposes a solution to that is to learn how to code. So you either program or you be programmed. So you create the program so that you are aware of how this shit works, And so then I was like, okay. Then the idea came to kind of play with the game and see if I could code it, because the idea with the game is really thinking about engagement. And right now we've coded it to basically you will never die in the game, so as long as you continue playing it. So when you stop playing it dies, the dino dies. So the new version is also about engagement in a more active way, that it's like it's the reward you get on Instagram for scrolling. You're getting this reward as long as you're scrolling, and then you stop scrolling, then you feel this withdrawal and you want to go back to it because that reward has stopped. So here also you're just like playing till you're like, okay, I can get that high score, but then when you realize, maybe a lot of people come in, they realize, oh, I'm not dying. Then there isn't also that, there are a lot of things that it's very interesting. It's also like, in my head, I thought of it in one way, and then the way that people are playing it is also giving me these other perspectives, because so many people have, like Koshi was just saying that she was playing it on her phone in the metro, right? Because there's no internet on the metro. I've never played it on my phone.
On the Aqua line.
Yeah, nobody's.
At one point, that was the only game on my phone.
You didn't even have to download it. It was just there.
That's the whole reason my phone couldn't handle anything else. So I would open Chrome just to play the game.
See?
Yeah.
So, and when we started doing this, so of course, like my partner Ali helped me code. I can't code as of yet so well. But I gave him these instructions, like, because I have, done a bit of coding, like I understand the logic of how code works and like the commands that you need to give to do certain things, because I did a bit of coding in school. I was able to, go with him that, this is like I wanted to die 5 seconds after somebody has stopped touching that key. And while I was doing all this, what I realized is that, we always think that, oh, when we are online, we are being tracked. There is this internet, there's these algorithms, they're tracking us. But here was a game where you're not connected to the internet. There is a code at play, and it's tracking you still. Because I've put in the code that, if they don't if it reaches a certain score, then do this. If they don't touch this for these many seconds, like I can, do it to like 3 seconds, 10 seconds, 7 seconds. It is so precise. So it's tracking you even when you're offline. And that was something like a revelation for me, like an understanding of, oh, it's not just the internet. Like it's actually the code, the algorithm that actually can just run even without the internet and can track you even then.
Yeah, and I think that's why also they kind of suppress this code, right? Because the code gives you a lot of context of what all is actually being tracked. If you look at all the kind of loops and the everything that's embedded in the code.
Correct.
And this is like also another idea that we spoke about is this like, flux of content that's like repressing context, because the conditions that are underpinning image creation or the factors that are influencing the visibility of these images or these systems of circulation, along with the Jodie Dean article that you sent me that has been very influential to this body of work that you have here, where Jodie Dean is talking about how we're living in this constant age of information, and the information is being circulated not to elicit a response, but to just speak into the void, right? So how can we kind of transcend this infinite circuitry loop like we have with stories, like Instagram stories, like people posting.
Check out.
Yeah.
Don't log in.
And would you like to speak more about this text, this Jodie Dean text, and how you came across it, and like what resonated with you the most from the text that has now been translated into this work?
Yeah. So it's interesting how I came across this text. We were talking about Kremp at Kingston. When I was studying at Kingston, they had a philosophy department which is sadly shut now.
Yeah.
So there was this woman I met to the one class I went to at Kremp who introduced me to an artist whose show I went to. And then he told me at his opening about this kind of text. And I was like massively intrigued because like what she talks about is like, for me, I think with Jodie Dean's text, where she talks about this idea of communicative capitalism, where communication is now a tool that capitalism uses to perpetuate itself through platforms where communication happens. So I was like, this is what helped me articulate for myself all my problems with the platform. And in this text, she also talks about this idea of a no-response communication. And that is like you said, where we almost write into the void, like a bird chirps on a tree, hoping, the sound falls on the ear, of another bird. And that's how we try to now reach out to other humans. We don't like the disappearing stories that you have on Instagram. They have an option of close friends. A lot of people use that to add 10 friends and then say something really personal on this, hoping one of them will respond. Instead of reaching out and say, I would like to talk. Or
the second level of this is influencers asking people to pay to be on their close friends.
What?
Like on Patreon. Like they'll have a Patreon and they're like, if you pay me $10 a month and you send me a screenshot, I'll add you to my close friends, where I do
Wow.
Like there's some, some fashion people, if they want to do sales and stuff, sell some clothes, like a marketplace that's only for a particular group of people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the other thing, right? How are people using the same tool in so many different ways? And what does it mean for different people? Because for in this situation that you're describing, it's to make money. Like I said, it's taken over by people who see it as an opportunity to make money. But on the other hand, there is also very emotional labor going into creating stories where people want to reach out, but because there are easier ways of reaching out and the more vulnerable paths of reaching out, me coming to you and saying, Nupur, I'm not feeling so well today. Would you talk to me I'd like to share, or whatever, is now done through this. Like, so the next level of it is the next level of mediation is ChatGPT, because I'm hearing that a lot of students are finding it like they don't talk to their professors without running the entire conversation or whatever they have to say to the professor in ChatGPT first. So they like organize their like what they're going to say using ChatGPT, and then they go say it. And a lot of conversation now is mediated through ChatGPT. It's like you tell ChatGPT, this is what I'm trying to say. Help me say it in blah 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 way. And that's the like that's what people are. So even if now I'm coming to you and saying, say even if I want to check out of the Instagram and come to you on WhatsApp and say, hey, can I call you or something, or can we text and chat or whatever, we are so out of tune if like knowing how to respond, because the only way we respond is like, you know, a friend shared something difficult, or like a friend had a baby, we liked the photo and we think that they now know that we've congratulated them, right? Or even now it's on freaking WhatsApp. You send a message and you can like the message, and WhatsApp doesn't send you a notification saying your message has been liked or something. So you keep waiting, thinking you're going to get a response. And then like 3 days later, you go back and see if they read this message or not, and you see they've reacted to it. And so there is massive anxiety around like the etiquette of social communication is updating so often. We don't even know what anything means anymore. And on WhatsApp, you can't just like, it's not that you just put a heart on your message, you can do so many emojis.
Yeah.
Actually, you can use all the emojis, no? I don't think there's a limit.
No. I mean, I think you can only use one though. Like if
you can use only one.
React with two.
But like if there is heart, thumbs up, thumbs down, I think that's enough, no? Like.
Yeah.
You can only add to emails, which are just thumbs up.
Yes. That's another thing. But at least you get a notification that this person has reacted.
I sent an email about a party had react to it, which was.
That's why we have third spaces opening up now. So we transcend this whole loop of platforms and just go to a third space opening very soon.
It's a plug. Why are you plugging in without getting sponsored?
Yeah, pay me later. But
Exposure.
But you know, I was just thinking, because also in this Jodie Dean text is the sort of political aspect of online activity, right? Where she's talking about how people are kind of just reposting like political like infographics without any real action. You know, but then I was just thinking, like I was reading this text today morning and I was wondering, like, then do you agree that participation today, I mean, if we count a like as engagement or as participation, or a story reply as engagement, or a metric tool for engagement, so is participation today becoming a kind of passive consumerism? You know, and if yes, then by extension, is visibility on social media just a futile trap that people are chasing? And, you know, I'm just trying to get at where this threshold lies, right? Like, when is social media impacting real life and when is it not impacting real life? Because in a political sense, Jodie Dean is saying that, you know, it's not kind of impacting political life as much as it should. But then we also see in kind of more personal narratives like yours that it is kind of crossing this threshold, right? And like, so when is this impacting real life and when is it kind of absolving itself into like a dark abyss? And, you know, and I mean, by extension of that, I mean, this is also a question that we can discuss later because there's no answer. But if social media then becomes inherently apolitical in the sense that there is not much translating into actual political action, then how can it be imagined into a more political space? Or is it that like we're too far gone and we just imagine a whole other new digital space that's political, that's not social media. But maybe this we discuss later. But
Okay.
yeah.
So when Jodi Dean talks about, it being a futile exercise, I think what she's really trying to say is that it's futile for the powerless. But it is very powerful for the people in control of it. So, like, she talks about, how Trump uses his Twitter account to just, like, say rubbish most of the time. And it's like he is giving you the illusion that he's like, and she says that about many political leaders, that they come online and they pretend as if they're talking to the public and the mass, and but there isn't like a response, like, in the sense, say, we write back. It's not like Trump or any other political leader is going to, like, at Tasneem Lohani, thank you for your message. I think so and so. It's now this illusion of, like, I am communicating and I'm not expecting a response. I know there's not going to be a response. It's an illusion. So I don't know if social media is a political space, because it's, or can be used positively as a political space rather, because it's deeply political in the way that it impacts its users today.
Yeah.
Like, say, a Trump is able to hire a Cambridge Analytica to, extract information of voters and bias them towards voting for him. So it is deeply political and it has an impact, but not a positive one for the people using it, for the people who are giving it the food, the people feeding the machine. So I don't know if, like, I don't even know why should it be a political space? It's social media, no? Like, socialize as a tool. Like, it's also not the healthiest thing to be overly addicted to any one medium of any kind or anything in the world. Like, there's always good to have a balance. I'm not even saying that, like, oh, social media is really good for socializing, so just do all your communication through social media. The thing is, like, social media is good and helpful to communicate with people at distance. The bias of media is that it allows for distance communication. But the way that we are using it and the way that now tech bros want us to use it is all the time. So we'll be sitting together and we will be on our phones. And that is creating distance between us while we're sitting on a table and eating lunch. But they want that because they want the engagement. And so they don't care if, we've taken a cab from wherever, traveled an hour to actually come meet each other. But we would have spent 20 minutes of that lunch checking something on our phone or and it's not just like social media, right? It's also like we are stuck in a system where everything is on your phone. Like, you get a cab through your phone, you pay for everything through your phone, you shop on your phone, you even buy groceries on your phone. You don't even go out for anything. And so now if you're stuck in the system and you're going out also, like, you're so into these systems that, yeah, of course, in a conversation or at a lunch, at some point I will say I have to book my Uber and the phone will come out. So, like I was saying earlier, I think checking out of this system and realizing that I can go on the street and stop a Kali Pili.
That's so ambitious of you to think, because
That's been 80% of my cabs in Bombay.
But yeah.
I mean, I can only do it in Bombay actually. Can't do it in Bangalore. Bangalore is,
Oh, yeah.
you need Uber, you need Nammayatri, you need Ola, you need Rapido, you need 4 apps and you need to be booking on all 4 apps at the same time.
It's also BKC, yeah. It's true.
Huh? City of Tech Bros, yeah. So it is, so like when I had my friend from Bangalore come over here to Bombay with me, she couldn't like understand the fact that people use cash here, physical cash. And actually, I also like before coming to Bombay, my prep is to make sure I have some physical cash with me before I come here for the trip. And she refused to believe me. She came here. We used to get cabs, and they used to be like, "Jeepe nahi hai." And then she used to just like really struggle. And then I told her so many times, there's an ATM we can go, but it was so used to this idea that we can pay through our phones. Like, why can't I pay through my phone? And it's almost now holding cash in your hand is like an unfamiliar thing. That's the hesitation to go to the ATM. I don't remember, when was the last time I went to an ATM? I don't know what to do there anymore. I don't remember.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, this also like, if I go back to your question of like response, like who is responding to you and who is not responding to you and speaking into the void, right? And it, and I want to quote something from the Citizen X project that I spoke about, which was this web extension that brings to light a lot of things that are happening on your web page. And the quote goes that like we often think about the internet as something remote, as something distant, as something ephemeral, and we use terms like the cloud, to describe it. But in fact, the internet is a very real and a very solid place. It's a worldwide infrastructure of computers, of cables, of routers, and of people, if we're talking like in terms of like physical infrastructure. And that infrastructure means it's connected to real places with real territory, real citizens, and real politics. And like since we are dealing with this IRL part of it, and then it's like, what is social media etiquette? Because we don't have universal laws or like cultures that we can look back to for this. Like there's essentially no precedent for social media etiquette. And do you think this idea of, obviously like you said, it is an alienating, right? It's inherently alienating. But also, are we placing too much importance and too much pressure on just getting a response back sometimes? Because, are we more connected if we are responding on the internet, or are we just more networked? Because like, is it ghosting if a friend like deactivates their Instagram, but they update their Spotify playlist about you with like some of the best music you've ever heard? And like, it's like, are we relying too much on verbal communication, like on social media, when actually in real life, there are many ways of showing love and attention and care? Is it a good picture if nobody liked it? Like, are they a good friend if they didn't validate you on social media in some form? Like, I mean, all of you guys that were invited on social media, and maybe not everyone said, yes, I'll be there, but what's important is at the end of the day, people showed up to the talk and to support and engage with these ideas, So, like, what are your thoughts on kind of this aspect of this no response?
Of how people show up
in different ways,
even on the internet.
Yeah.
Well, it's still confusing because they keep like, there was a like button. We started with the like button, then then came a dislike button, and then it got massive hate. The dislike button got hate, and it got pulled out. And so there have been like the amount of updates that come into the space, and that what stays and what gets pulled out is basis how we are responding to these different software updates. So, like, how do you know in what way is your friend showing support? Because it's changing so quickly. Because the feature that, say, my friend used 3 months ago to show support doesn't exist on the platform. Now they're using a different feature, and I don't know that it means the same thing. Or more emojis have been added into our pool of emojis, and now we don't know what this new emoji means. It can mean totally different for you, can mean totally differently for me. Like my best friend, when we went to college, so she's my best friend from school, and like literally we lived a street apart, and we were always at each other's houses, and there was such understanding, like we were literally like sisters from two different mothers. And when we went to college, of course, get busy, like she did engineering, I studied art, and we were in different spaces altogether, and we both were on Instagram, and I didn't really like Instagram, so I barely used it, but she would very regularly send me memes. And I would never respond to that because I was like, oh, cool, funny, right? And after a year or two, she stopped sending memes, and then she told me that I drifted away as a friend. And I said, why do you think that? He's like, you never responded to any of my memes. So like, for me, that was a way to stay connected with you, because the memes were related to, shows that we watched growing up and things that we discussed when we were much younger. Now it's like, rolled into content and something funny to laugh about and feel nostalgic about. And, I never really enjoyed that whole consuming content part of the new version of social media that came with Instagram and so on. So then I realized, for 2 years, I realized that my friend has been feeling like I don't want to be her friend anymore because I don't respond to her memes. And so then I made it a point to deliberately respond, say something. Even if I said LOL, that meant that I was. But how would I know? And now there are so many different ways of doing the same thing, and it's very different and personal for everyone.
Yeah.
So yes, you are right that like how you have in physical spaces that there are different ways to show up, there are different ways to show support and say that, I am still your friend. But they don't update. Like, if you're my neighbor and I give you some food, you will not return the empty katori back to me. You will put something in it and you will give it to me. And that could be the only thing we do as neighbors, share food. But that is a form of support that is, in India, there for, I don't know, generations, decades, or I don't know how long. But it's not changed. Like, it's not like 10 years ago, we used to give empty katoris, now we put food in it. So when it's updating this fast, it's very difficult to keep track of, at least for me.
Yeah, and I think also like this, the turn of phrase, right? Like owing someone a response. And, this goes back again to this idea of like community, of alienation, and also like transaction. Like, you owe me a response. Like, there is a debt that has to be repaid. And we were talking about this book, on anthropology, this very famous book by Graeber, who studied he was kind of the antithesis to Adam Smith, because Adam Smith's whole idea of capitalism and markets was that, he built up all of these things, that this is how it has always worked, and like capitalism has always existed, and this is just how it's evolved, and he just kind of made something that already existed into a kind of more formalized approach. But a major argument of this Graeber book called Debt, the First 5,000 Years, is that this imprecise, informal community building indebtedness of human economies, it's only replaced by these very mathematically precise, like transactional elements through some imposed violence, usually by the state or enforced. And a second major argument of this book, is that in a lot of early civilizations and communities, debt was actually a good thing. The fact that you were in debt to someone meant that there was an ongoing relationship.
Yeah.
That you expected that you would know this person for your entire lifetime, and that in some form or another the debt would be repaid. It was not that, oh, I paid for your coffee, so you pay me back, but oh, I know that I can rely on you, or like there are forms again of support and love that are maybe not transactional or not tangible or cannot be kind of converted to a barter system or an economy. It's not object oriented.
Yeah.
And this actually, when someone wanted to close their debts with someone, meant the breaking of a relationship. That, oh, you actually don't see this person in your life for the long term, so let's clear all our dues and go our own ways, and I mean, I don't know, I just find this like very interesting also. So this idea of like transaction and like the marketplace, and also this idea of owing a response, to someone, because it's like sometimes someone will message me something, but I will just go to their house, or I will actually show up somewhere where I know they're going to be there and have the conversation with them like in person, and then it's like obviously the debt is like paid back. Like I don't have to then go back home and respond to your text, like yeah. So sometimes I feel like there's also an element of like alienation and like transactionalism.
It's very interesting you say that, because I think, like, as I'm thinking about it, I think that it's very hardwired now, like, into my brain that, like, oh, if I, sent a message, I need a response. And that, like there is, like, that complexity of real life where you can show up in different ways doesn't translate to the digital. So the logic of the digital, as you said, is mathematical. It's like precise. The precision with which and the efficiency with which we expect humans to communicate is just not possible. And so there are a lot of, misunderstandings, because like you misread someone's silence or someone's emoji or someone's way of texting, which you are much more easily able to recognize and mediate if you heard their voice while they were saying the same thing, right? So so texting, is been like, for me also very like massively anxiety inducing, because like if I text someone and they don't respond to me, I think of like 100 things, like why have they not responded, and like do they have their blue ticks on, or maybe like, oh, they posted on Instagram but they didn't reply to my WhatsApp, or like they posted on their story but like why have they not responded. So now then I decided, okay, like maybe I should just call, and and
that's also very Indian culture.
What to call?
Yeah,
because calling is also now a big thing, because when I was in the UK even like 7 years ago, you couldn't call somebody anymore without permission, because it was very overstimulating to just randomly receive a call. So
yeah.
Yeah, and we all now also conform to that because it is overstimulating. Like there is not just one way for me to reach you. I can email you, text you, WhatsApp you, I don't know, Telegram you, Instagram you.
But the most fun part of this platform politics is like when you and your friend are both having like a manic episode and you're texting on 5 platforms at the same time and you're also on a call at the same time, and it's like, oh, like look at this, what I sent you here, and then see this tweet about this thing, and then this, like, do you...
Oh yeah.
That's like, I think you really go somewhere with that.
Yeah.
Like, I think
You
it's
are
super
right.
fun. I have a friend who I have a Google Doc with, like a Google Doc where we punch stuff. Then we have a Google folder. Then we have Instagram, WhatsApp. And we have another Google Doc for YouTube links. And we just like comment things over there. And then we call when we see the comment. And it's like, but did you see this platform?
Do you have a shared Google Drive?
Yeah.
See, my mom and her best friend have a shared bank account.
So yeah.
Transaction.
No, actually, yes, and also no, because like the trust to say, I will open a bank account with you.
Yeah.
Do we trust, like, would we do that like now? I think today, like, you know, when I suggest, like, sometimes to a friend, like, let's go on a trip together, they're like, oh, but we have to see our compatibility. What if we are not trip friendly? Like, what if we don't get along on the trip? Because, yeah, trips are taxing, they're difficult. And, like, they can break friendships. All true. But, like, my mom has a bank account with her best friend. And then they put money into it, equal amount of money into it every month.
Yeah. But also, okay, I'm just wondering, like, from an art context, like, you know, now that, I mean, maybe some people haven't had a chance, but you can, like, have a look also at the works. There's a sonic piece and then the game. But, like, what is the trajectory of these works? You know, like, are they processual? Like, do you plan on developing these works further? Or, like, not these works, but on these thematics? Like, where do you kind of see this going next, or what are kind of the things you maybe want to address that you didn't get a chance to address through these works?
So, you know, like, I think I start any project with a problem that I'm not able to understand or figure out something. It's a selfish motive to figure out for myself, what does this mean? And then hope that other people are struggling with the same question, and then we can have this conversation, right? So for me, like, all the questions I had about social media and why I hate it, why I love it, through doing this project over 3 years, I feels like this question has been resolved for me. So for me, the next question is actually advertising on these platforms. For me, what is now interesting is to look at the social aspect of advertising, because advertising is now like, you know, people looking into your eyes through the screen and saying, this cream really did wonders for my skin. Trust me and buy it. Trust because you've been following this person for X number of months or minutes. And you trust them a bit more than like Bollywood celebrities, because you know, of course, they're not using the cream. But maybe the influencer could be using it. And then you have all these counter influencers who now de-influence you. Say, look at this video properly. She's put the cream on her hand, but there is no clip of her actually putting it on her skin. So she didn't really put this cream on her skin. This is not what she uses.
Yeah, and also very literally, blue light causes skin damage. So they say that you should wear sunscreen if you're in front of the laptop, even if you're not going outdoors, because it causes less damage than the sun, but it literally does damage your skin.
Yeah.
So
the number one thing they should tell you is, don't be on the screen, don't watch this video. and please sleep.
Yeah, I have
Go to
the
sleep.
yellow light mode always on. So, yeah. But I think also like speaking of, I've also seen some projects that have been kind of like authored by social media that have, like kind of like collective authorship, like when you make a work of art on social media, like literally harnessing the platform to make your art. Like the most famous example would be like Charlie XCX's album, How I'm Feeling Right Now, in 2021 during COVID that she made, where she basically had like her whole track list was decided by her followers. Her album cover was decided by her followers. Like she just made polls on her story, and then everyone kind of collectively decided on the kind of
Yeah, because
yeah.
this person sees opportunity, a new way to optimize engagement.
Sure. But it was all
Money also, no? I don't think she paid them.
Yeah,
yeah, this
free
is,
labor.
Free labor.
yeah.
It's
This is
crowdfunding.
It's
labor.
populist. It's like a poll. Like, hey, if the most number of people like
Yeah,
this
but
album
why should I do
cover-
the labor of even
Yeah.
like looking at your post? Let alone think of whatever image or songs.
Yeah. Sure.
Creative directors are dictators, so sometimes it's nice to feel like you're a part of something and have a decision.
So this is
This album is very
actually
close to both of us. So well.
so this is the parasocial relationship that they create with you.
Yeah, I know.
where-
And she's like 25% Gujarati. so it's
She knows
even
what she's
She
doing.
has a feudal mindset.
yeah.
Apple curry album release.
Yeah.
સાચી વાત છે.
Yeah. But also, do we want to like
I think
oh,
we need to expose Charlie XCX next time. That would be a good.
next talk?
Yeah.
Finissage. But should we also open this up
Yes.
to question?
I have a lot of questions.
Okay.
But Abneet, one second before we finish this, like crowdfunding on like social media in terms of content has been like Charlie XCX is one example, but like I think more popular, like more iconic to me than that is how Watch Me Whip, Watch Me Nay Nay music video came about. The song was just released, people, because these singers use the words of dance step. People have danced literally the same way, and then the music video is just a collage of all the montage of all the videos, and then also like earlier even Lady Gaga has done like bunch of competitions or like put up your own version of music video of that song, and like I have also participated in those. But and you can see like if you followed the videos that the fans have put, you can see maybe Gaga has used elements from this, has used that, and I think
OG's Soldier Boy. Crank that? Like, yeah. Very
that was before that.
yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's cool though.
that was like YouTube had
Always.
just like started.
Wasn't this like for training models and like asking people to like do the same thing and different people do the same thing and it has turned out it's been all that data. All
Yeah.
that content
Yeah, like
has
what
been-
Pokemon Go does.
Yeah, Pokemon.
Yeah. Almost everything is used to all of our data, all of the content, everything we've written, painted is being used to train algorithmic models to then I don't know, do what? I mean, what are they trying to do also at this point? I don't know. How much more extraction and exploitation can one do? Abhineet, you had questions?
Yeah, so actually, this is something, I don't know if you've come across Snigdha Poonam's work also. She's kind of deeply invested in how internet works. I don't know, I mean, you're looking largely as your personal experience of course, building this emotional and nostalgic experience with all these social media apps and internet. But where Snigdha Poonam actually, also people think internet is accessible in India, it still isn't. It's not accessed by everyone. people are still not accessing internet the way the penetration of internet in rural areas. In fact, for instance, even in Bombay, and a lot of people refuse to use GPay. Like they hate it. They're actually the real communists. I would say. In the taxi drivers, when you tell them sometimes, the Kali Pili, you take GPay, they actually give you the worst stare ever.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized that not everyone wants to be fed into the system of using apps because they're so connected to nostalgia, but also like this old forms of communication, because that kind of increases, because that same transaction that you would do in GPay and then end up, you spend more time to give cash to somebody.
Yeah.
I think I was just feeling the other day also like, oh my god, actually it makes so much sense to every time, when you remove cash to give someone, you somehow end up having a slightly longer conversation. And it pauses you from your daily anxieties of leaving the cab in and out.
Yes.
And that's a very interesting space, and that sort of time that you get, that extended time for your feelings to exist in that moment, right?
Yeah.
So that's one thing. But second thing is how are you proposing this new social time, that you are proposing, right? Are you proposing like there should be a new form of communicating, or you just you want to kind of be, with the internet and be like, okay, there's no way out of it now. So that is the second question. Third is going back to Snigdha Poonam's critique, is where, in fact, I looked at her work.
One second, let me answer the first two. Otherwise, I'll forget. Okay, the thing about the cabs, yes. I think there is, I agree with that. Like, there's a lot of physicality to taking out cash and giving. Here, they even give you like 1 rupee, 2 rupee chiller, and it's really like a sweet conversation. Like, it doesn't have to be my friend, but it's like, it's almost like sometimes I think of it as practice to talk to somebody.
Yeah, more human interaction.
Yeah. Right? Like, once you stop, the amount of talking that you do to people, with people in physical spaces is reducing, then you lose the practice, you lose the skill. That's why it's now overstimulating to talk. That's why it's overstimulating to pick up the call. Because I do find myself talking to cabbies here a lot more. Like, it just comes naturally. Like, oh, yahan se kyun liya, wahan se lena. Bangalore mein never.
You'd rather not talk.
I don't know. It's just the coldness to booking through an app. And in Bangalore also, I don't know. Bangalore, there is another special thing where all the cabbies are either talking on the phone to someone else all the time, or they are watching something on their phone while they drive.
Here as well. The wheels are on. There's a automatic thing now. They don't even have to read.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, they keep it on auto, so they don't have to touch this. It's just going on and on and on. And one thing is always connected to. So 1 year is just for kind of knowing.
Yeah.
No one is honking at this, but otherwise it's on.
Yeah, I mean,
it's kind of, it's stressful. But the other thing that I really wanted to pinpoint was Snigdha actually talks about the violence being generated, especially close to the election,
yes.
TikTok stars were actually paid heavily. There's a story during the 2016 election where Haryanvi TikTok stars were paid to produce certain form of violence purposely around the election, so they could produce hate, and that hate generated enough this thing to get a local kid killed.
Yeah.
And that became like a campaign target for the BJP to kind of win the election in Haryana.
Yeah.
And that's interesting, because this is what all it's doing. It's not just social media, it's actually a landscape being produced to produce a form of violence.
Yeah.
Which is invisible, because you would not connect these things easily, because unless someone goes and does this deep research and sees what is their connection to the internet, because our connection to the internet is very, very, I feel, urban.
Yes.
But when you go really deep inside places, their connection to the internet is way different.
Yes.
Your experience to the internet is way different, but for people there, it's actually producing a next level of violence, which is so scary, because it's being used without you knowing. So the political leaders have figured out how to even use these apps to another level, which you might be just interacting with the content, but the content is forming a certain violence and a certain a relationship that you would not even want to be engaged. You realize it much later.
Yeah, you
that
never
what has
asked for
happened
any of this.
is far more serious and consequential than anywhere else. So that's something what even Snigdha has gone. I think the second book is also out now.
Okay.
First one was Dreamers, where she looked at how it made money for young TikTokers, and TikTok was removed, and then a lot of them went jobless. So the capital kind of, the whole connection to the app and the capitalism, how it was working in India with TikTok, how it was moved, people made a lot of money, then they brain broke, then Instagram was still allowed. And now she's looking at another book where she was just released. She's talking about, I think, all of these very deep issues in sort of rural areas. Like her research has gone to another level of there are apps that we don't use on a daily basis. We might just be using Facebook, Instagram, but they are using, like, there's an app called Mujo, and there's an app called
The Indian social media apps.
There's a almost soft porn for Biharis. I don't know what. I think they are doing these Bhojpuri soft porn videos only in and it's targeted in like pockets of Bihar.
Yeah.
And it's only sold to them. So it's like almost like another layer of violence.
Yeah.
Because of course, I'm sure it's totally non-regulated.
Yeah.
And once they find out, then there's all these busts happening.
Yeah,
it's too late till the time it has spread out to this.
Yeah, this is the extreme dark end. This is the dark side of the space, and it's deeply, like, it's troubling. And the thing is that when like you have a kid killed in where you say Bihar, Haryana. In Haryana, the reason that also, or I feel, for me at least, one of the reasons where and how such violence escalates so easily is that we are not really communicating with each other the way we used to. There's violent reactions to things, and acting on impulse is normalized. And online, you can be anonymous and you can do these actions without much consequence, and that somehow, I think, that translates to the physical, because you forget that they're different. That kind of anonymity and that violence that you can do very easily online, you really shouldn't. But once you've gotten into that mindset, you're okay with that. So, like, even say in our building WhatsApp groups, like where I am, like, it gets sometimes very aggressive. Like, there was the Project Sindoor and everyone was celebrating, and people died. Real people died. And there was propaganda celebration on the WhatsApp groups going, and I was just like, can we just pray for the people who've died? Like, what is this celebration? And it was chaos and anger and just everyone just kind of shouting at me. And these are people I see, going on a walk or whatever. But somehow it's okay now to yell. And then they had to shut down the group. And the resolution was, guys, please go watch some reels and go look at some Netflix and chill out. And then, calm your minds. I'm closing the group for a while. So the solution is distraction now. So, yeah, I mean, and I'm definitely, speaking from my perspective, because I don't know anything else better than my perspective. And resolution, or what do you do now, is really individual, I think. What I hope is that people can recognize and can be more aware of how it's impacting each one of us. And how we spoke, it's impacting each one of us so uniquely. So the solutions and the way that it, like, you deal with it will also be unique to you. So I think like for me, the first step is just really to like sit and rethink our relationship with this kind of way of communication. I don't know. I don't think I'm intelligent enough to have a solution for
Yeah,
this.
sometimes things don't have to be so consequentialist and solutionist. And we're presenting this, and we as a society and as a civilization will eventually come to something. But yeah.
We are building a sleeper cell network.
I think it's also interesting for me that once the minds are mapped in terms of consumerism or on every level, money as well as just what you consume online or on television, then the spaces that you select and how synesthesia gets attacked in a way, because synesthesia like allows you to, interact with the world differently, like your sight and sound and smell, then gets imposed on, which is such a basic, ethereal, esoteric thing of being human, or like, so when once these mind maps, and it's in your first paragraph, and the presence keeps staying continuous, it's continuously felt even while one remains alone. So for some people, there's no solitary anymore.
Yeah.
And that solitude becomes that alienation that you're talking about. So I find that I have a difficulty trying to choose my synesthesia with people. For example, or how we want to herd this into aesthetics, or which is pretty much visual culture.
Yeah.
So and this imposition of like anything to do, like how politics then becomes extremely takes over. It's anyway totalitarian, like this BJP. I don't need it. First thing in the morning, your family business,
Yeah.
I know you're the cooperator. Why you bringing your Botford structures into my brain and riding it like a rut, like it's intense. So
Yeah, and it's also so like you went to Instagram to maybe like at one point I think the biggest problem was, oh, my friend is having a holiday at a place that I'm not, right? That was the complaint. Now it's like I want to see my friend's pictures, but all I'm seeing is like Sam Altman's sister has booked him for sexual abuse. And I'm reading I don't know, in excruciating detail what exactly he did to her on Instagram. Why is it on Instagram? Why is it on my feed? Because I hate Sam Altman, and I've reposted things about him that are problematic. It automatically assumes I want to continue to see even worse things about him continuously, and I'm just like it's so hard to how do you just switch from, oh, like my friend had a baby, oh, sexual abuse,
that's exactly what I was
oh, buy this cream.
I was saying that the neural networks of the neural networks then begin to take something that's completely not part of your agenda and drags the mind mapping into the agenda. Right?
Yes.
It's like mistagging, like they're just tagging, tagging only Sam Altman, not that you mean Sam Altman in a pejorative sense or an affirmative sense. They just tag Sam Altman. They don't really know the context with which you're engaging. So, yeah.
They don't understand either.
Yeah, that's probably why Nick Land went from like left to right, like horseshoe theory, right? Like you engage, like when you're radical, it's not really understanding the situationality, the relation that you're having with this radicalism.
Yeah.
So it's
there is extremism here. It's correct what you're saying. It just oscillates from one to the other.
Yeah.
But lately, most of this movement from left to right, one example would be the Red Scare podcast. It's not ideological at all. It's just grifting. They found themselves a pocket, like a niche pocket.
Contrarianism. It's being
for the sake
an
of
edgelord.
being like an edgelord, yeah.
Rage baiting, yeah. Yeah.
It's just drifting.
Yeah.
You're like,
Gets the people going. It's true. It's
Yeah,
engagement.
Engagement.
Yeah.
It all keeps coming back to it, sadly.
Yeah, not to quote Kanye West, but gets the people going. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, is there any other questions? Okay.
does it have to be a question?
Why is it titled this such a cool manner?
Yeah.
What was the prompt?
So, like I was saying, for me, the internet was full of anxieties. And for me, anxiety is a very physical experience, always related to the gut. And so, feeling nauseous, wanting to puke up, are all feelings you feel when you're very anxious. So, the show's called It's Taking Longer to Download Than It Was to Puke Up, for this reason, because there was also a time when you had to refresh a page. It took forever to refresh, and you're like, oh, what am I missing? Like, this person was about to send the message that they were typing for the last 3 minutes. I'm like, I want to see it. Or like, sometimes it just doesn't load also, like the internet is gone. And all of these things we normalize as these are micro anxieties that we normalize as part of our everyday. So then things become overstimulating over time, and it's deeply anxiety inducing. Like it adds up over time. So
Like the title.
thank you.
I just remembered what I wanted to ask. Yeah, the pandemic. Like, do you think like the pandemic rewired how we interact with people? Because for an extended duration of time, all you could do was like text people, like send them memes.
Yeah.
And then, you also ended up making friends across, like you said, like the Facebook friend in Pakistan.
Yeah.
Clubhouse.
And of course, Clubhouse, that's a different can of worms. I'll not go there. But
That was strange.
But do you think that now people are unable to like get out of that loop of like constantly being in touch, like constantly having access to like each other?
Do we really have access to each other?
We don't, like the perception of
Our
access to
perception
each
of
other.
access is heightened. Yes, I do think so, because during COVID, what happened was after a certain period of time, again, the wealthy realized, oh, we need to continue making money. People can't just be getting paid just sitting at home. Like, till when will the government bail us out? And so they said, okay, let's start like accelerating these technologies that were nascent, like Skype, and like turn them into proper business tools that we can, work from home, learn from home, just be home. Like, I mean, the Instamart, Blinkit, Zepto imploded because of COVID, and we don't leave the house only to get our vegetables anymore. And in fact, in Bangalore at least, the effect is that even the actual physical grocery stores are less and less maintained, because they don't expect people to come. So then you're like, oh, I don't want to, and you're so used to buying online, so I don't want to see like cockroaches running through my food. Like, I can't buy that. Obviously, how do you feel like eating that? But if that is invisibilized, of course, maybe in the dark stores there's a rat, don't know, but you're not seeing it. So, yeah, like, I think people, very clever people with intention to make a lot of money, again, use it as an opportunity to model us however which way they wanted. And sadly, the people who were impacted the most is the kids who were in school at that time, because all their years of social interaction was stolen from them, and now they just some of them, because I teach in colleges, and when I see these kids who just went from COVID school to college, they really struggle. Everything is overstimulating. Like, I had a student once tell me ma'am, we can't go out for, live sketching. We are COVID kids. We don't do sun. It's internalized. Even they know what is done to them. And they're okay with it. And then what can they do? Like, they are the least powerful.
I guess you can put a candlelight on their shadow band.
Candlelight on there?
Candle or shadow band, yeah.
I mean, I guess one of the positive things is that, like, a little glimmer of hope is that just last week, Facebook, Google, YouTube were all sued for their platforms being addictive. Finally, there has been judgment made that yes, it has been used actively to harm children. And they have to pay Facebook has to pay $375 million as a fine. So that's a bit of a hope, but it's still like somebody else. I don't know if you were asking me, Nupur, like who's going to get that money? The government.
That was my question.
Only
Only $375 million. That's it.
That's
That's
how
it.
much you made.
No,
That's how much Facebook is paying.
That's the fine Facebook has to pay to the government.
That's fair to you.
To the US government.
Yeah.
It's still expensive.
It will go for bombs.
But they made
It will go
Trump
for bombs.
win, so
But
that's
Facebook
fine.
is a CIA factor.
Yeah.
Like, they
So it's
created,
Google.
it was created with the CIA.
I mean,
It's a
Google.
baby of the CIA, so
Yeah, it's built for CIA.
it's built for, it's a CIA
And
system.
Mossad.
Of course.
Yeah.
They have backdoor entry.
So we can all just go to MIT and
Yeah, because at MIT there was this course called
Of course.
Persuasive
Center for Ethics and Law is. But never mind. It's okay.
No, there was a course back, I don't know, in the 90s or maybe even earlier called Persuasive Technology. And all these tech brothers who have invented the like button or been like very seminal in designing these platforms have gone through this course where they have learned how to make technology persuasive. And then they've hired people who designed casinos to help them design this platform to help us make this more addictive so people will not leave like they don't leave your casinos. So the amount of money they have, the amount of resources they have, like for me, I feel like the only way I can save myself from this is to check out, because despite knowing all of this, I am still impacted by it. It still gives me anxiety. I still can't at all times recognize that this is an effect of the platform and not what is really happening in the world.
Yeah, I guess the solution is individualistic liberalism and,
Yeah.
everyone look out for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's
and-
like I think it's just the solution is to check out of the system, recognize that you have power, recognize that you don't need Uber, you don't need Blinkit. In fact, you can even learn to grow your own food and make your own clothes, and please go sit in the sun.
Unfortunately, we live in a society.
No, the thing is that why can't the society be a space where we can all do this? I mean, it's actively being told to us that this is all we have. All I'm saying is there are other ways of existing that doesn't have to be us stuck in a system, because it does often feel like why am I still on Instagram? Because as an artist I have to be. Where else do I go? And I don't want to be and I need to find the alternative where I can finally make peace with it and I say nope.
On that note,
Yeah.
I think we want to
Thank
cover.
you.
This was amazing. Thank you, Tasn and Nupur.
Thank you. Thank you everyone so much for coming, taking the time to come here, and of course Aisha and Zalak for hosting us, having us in this space. I think this was a really fun conversation. We are the Artist Society podcast by the Artist Society Collective. Find us on Instagram to hear about the next episode. We are called the Artist Society Collective.